everywhere. GBS.
Hello, good evening. My name is Eugene Kwach, and welcome to our current affairs show, that is The Insight, where we bring you insightful discussions on the state of education today. Today we focus on a critical issue that affects countless students and families across the nation. Education is the bedrock of progress and opportunity, but access to quality education has been a challenge to many. Well, we're going to get to delve deeply into three issues tonight. Today we explore the state of education. We look at the university new funding shocker. We also going to look at the CBC system, which of course has had good challenges. We dive also into a discussion to get to look at other issues like cash crunch, which has been affecting the universities. We will also be getting deeply to other discussions, even as we talk about the state of education. Well, my name is Eugene Ching, as I had said earlier, and the Insight begins right now. But of course, we don't do this alone. I don't do this alone. We do this through the eyes, of course, through the lenses of different stakeholders and experts. And tonight, I'm joined by Samuel Masika. Samuel Masika is an education expert joining us on the Insight tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. Masika.
Thank you.
Yes. And of course, we have Aggrey Odiwuor. Aggrey Odiwuor is joining us also on the Insight tonight. And Aggrey is a student leader from Egerton University. Thank you so much, Aggrey Odiwuor. And of course, Jim Kelly Otieno is also joining us on the Insight tonight. And he is a student leader from University of Nairobi. We are now having a discussion on issues to do with education. It was good that we bring education stakeholders of the education itself. And of course, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me in this discussion. And Masika,
Yes, my brother.
if we could just start this conversation tonight, maybe you can tell us from your eyes, from where you sit, what is the state of education in Kenya in terms of affordability, in terms of maybe even the system how itself, generally speak, give us a scope of how education is generally from how you see it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Eugene, and thank you for our viewers for having us today. I'm not an education expert, as Eugene puts it, but I've worked in the education sector for a number of years as an administrator in institutions of higher learning, and that is technical college. So I would want to, even before we came to this show, I met the two gentlemen, and we were just discussing and getting to know each other. And I was telling, we just started looking at, after you shared the link, we started looking at how things are comparatively. And I told them education is doing well comparatively, because during our time we used to have what is called the Joint Admissions Board that would place you, it would lump student in a university that has no facility, has no courses of choice, and then as time has progressed, we have come to the Commission of University of Education that is there to oversight issues of quality, among other things. And then now there's this Kenya University and Colleges Central Placement Service Body, which is doing really well compared to JAB, because students today will do a course that they desire. I'm sure we are looking at higher learning and not maybe basic learning. If times have changed, and I think it has always been overdue for the fee that people have been paying for university to be reviewed. And I think that is the discussion that is ongoing countrywide, and some people feel uncomfortable. And for me, I think it's high time that the fee is reviewed. For example, I work in a technical college where we use technical equipment, and we also use material with those technical equipment. Materials that were fetching very low price in then years, today they are very expensive. But a student who was paying 16 years in 1990, still paying 16,000 today, would make it really hard for that university or that technical and vocational college to operate. But I'm not saying that school fees should just be hiked haphazardly. It should be based on something. And I think the government is taking a step in the right direction, and we have seen the new funding model for universities and TVETs. So I think there is a step forward.
Okay, we are also going to come to that discussion, because we also get it that the president actually had declined the offer by or the suggestion by the vice chancellors to hike the university fees.
Okay.
And we're going to delve into that discussion. But let me just come to Agri. Agri, maybe you can tell us from the perspective of a student, what are these challenges actually that you see are affecting students of higher learning, even as we talk about the state of education generally?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwache. I think the students at the universities or higher learning are faced by quite a number of challenges. And one of the challenges is the issue of fee. Most students in campuses are not able to raise the fees, are not able to pay the fees by themselves, because the money being paid by the government is not enough, because the government gives around a loan of around 20,000. This 20,000 is not enough to pay school fees, to give accommodation, and even you as a human being, you have to eat, so it can't buy you food. So I think these are a great challenge in the universities, and it should be reviewed by the government. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe if I come to you, Jim Kelly, because we have had conversations on cash crunch. You have heard of it, and the other time it have even affected Egerton University. From where you sit, how has these strains, the financial strains, affected universities and even the quality of education that you guys get?
Thank you, Coach, for having me in the podium. The universities faced a lot of challenges in the financial matter. This due to the fact that there is the management. The management in the university, they are not those who can manage the funds well. The universities are receiving funds from the government on a yearly basis. Each and every financial year, the government allocates the monies to the universities and also to the colleges. But what comes in is that those who manage the funds, the VC, the financial expert in the universities, are not up to task. They should be up to task so that they can manage the funds well. That's where the problem comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is his perspective on the financial crisis facing the universities. And let me just come to you, sir, maybe on these issues that we're talking about, among the challenges facing the universities, and one of them being cash crunch, financial issues facing the universities. Has it in any way maybe facilitated in these issues that on quality education that maybe is being received at the university level or higher learning? Will it maybe have affected the quality of education, and actually what is the progress?
Okay. Now, obviously, with lack of resources and funding, universities are not able to do what they are supposed to do. So if we have shortage of funds, universities will not delve into research, which is the key mandate of any university. We have a lot of local problems here that could easily be solved by universities locally, but we are importing solutions that would otherwise be just born here locally. He has said something that is really key. If, for example, a university does not have money to afford a particular professor's services, that professor will not be in that university. So obviously, the quality of education in that university is compromised, because they would be forced to hire a quack who does not know exactly what is supposed to happen so that he can stand in for this professor. Another thing that is would come up and which has been affecting university, and I think we need to address it, and at some point we have ever discussed it. Universities are universal. But the problem that we have in this country is that a university in Bungoma today, the leadership there would want the VC to be a person who is coming from there. All heads of faculties are supposed to be locals. That is not a university. That's a local entity. We are supposed to liberalize universities and even the way employment is done. When, for example, everybody says, every governor, I've heard every governor saying, we need a university in our area. And you see, devolution, if you asked me, devolution in some extent just devolved tribalism to lower levels, which has affected many sectors, education being one of them. Because if you insist on a local managing a university, we need people with open mind, people who have traveled, and it doesn't matter if somebody coming from central Kenya will manage a university comfortably in Bungoma. As long as they have the expertise, as someone has alluded, it is okay for them to be the people managing that university. This is something that has eaten Moi University. I think you have heard about the leadership wrangles, where the locals would say, no, so-and-so does not come from this region, and so he can't manage. I think Moi is an epitome of a struggling university, even before we come to Egerton. So I think we need also to embrace professionalism, think beyond our community, and think beyond the locality. That way, we are going to solve some of the problems. If an expert in finance comes from any other region, allow them. Another thing, Eugene, all universities in this country have fundraising projects. They are doing farming, they are doing all sorts of manner of things, and business. That some are in textile, some are in farming, some are in processing to get money, to supplement whatever the government is giving them. Where is this money coming from? We actually cannot come to a stall. What I think we should just be seeing universities struggling and not coming to a standstill, as is the case of Egerton, as you have mentioned. So I think, generally speaking, according to your question, with lack of funding, then there is not going to be quality, because you not have quality individuals, you not have the equipment that you need to give the education that is required.
I agree. The other time, Egerton University actually was on news headlines because of cash crunch issues. Maybe how has this affected maybe the quality of education from where you sit? And he talks about other universities embracing other means of getting revenues or incomes in the university. What has maybe the universities, how have they done? How are they going about these cash crunch issues from maybe your university or other universities that you know?
Yeah, the issue of cash crunch in universities is a very big challenge, but I don't understand why my friend using my university as a bad example. we should look into this. Can you let us use other universities? Because Egerton is a world-class university, and I think of late we haven't had such kind of issues. But I think this issue is majorly caused by the management.
Yes.
If the management is poor, then the money, we don't know, it's not being accounted for. So I think it's all about the management, and it's time we reshuffle the managements of these universities. Yeah, they should not be, and just as my learned friend has said, the problem is that the managements of most universities are ethnical based, and it's time we review these. We should hire competent people, as people who are self-driven. Yeah, and I think this will help in solving the issues in the universities. So I think the major problem is the issue of management. Once we solve the management issue, then I think everything will be in order. Yeah.
So maybe you tell us other ways, maybe through which students have been involved to get revenues for the schools. Maybe as a school involved you in other ways, like you talked about other university embracing other ways of getting incomes, maybe through other businesses. You can tell us about
Egerton is a famous agricultural giant.
Yeah, just as my learned friend said, most universities have come up with ways of generating revenues, and Egerton is majorly known for agriculture, and I think this is one of the ways in which Egerton is using to raise its revenues, apart from the fees being paid by students, and I think this has helped a lot in raising money for the universities. Yeah.
Okay. Jim Kelly, what do you make of this conversation?
I think it is high time the matter of education should not be politicized. The other day I had the people from Moi University actually. The people there, the management is so based of the people who are from that area. So this brought about by the fact that those leaders are politicizing the management. So it is high time the political class deviate from politicizing the matters education. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's also another issue I want us to delve into, even as we continue this conversation, and that is the CBC system, which of course has got issues, even from the onset of the CBC. It had issues, and of course we understand that in as much as we talk about the higher learning as well, but CBC, of course, competency-based curriculum, also has got, it starts somewhere before the students or the pupils come to universities. Maybe I get a general review of where CBC, the progress of CBC from where you are.
So I don't know, Eugene, whether we are done with the university thing, but I wanted to just say, when you gave up to this point, I looked at something. Universities have been, all universities countrywide have been receiving 54 billions.
Okay.
Every academic year, and the government has reviewed that to 84.6 billion. Like I said, what has changed is the funding model, and that is what is making many students feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because the government is saying anybody who is less, anybody who is vulnerable will receive full scholarship. People who are less vulnerable, they will receive. The less vulnerable will receive 53% scholarship, 47% help, and 7% will be household contribution. And then people who are able, these are now people who are coming from rich parents and rich families. They can get scholarship of 38%, and then loan of 55%, that is from help, and 70% household contribution. But the very needy will be fully funded by the government. All these resources will go to universities. You say that the president declined to listen to the presidential working party on the matters education. Actually, he didn't. He told them to go back and work on that arrangement that they had come with and they presented, because by then there was a lot of uproar, because what was standing out is that the fee had been hiked. Today, the Kenya University and Kenya University and Colleges Central Placement Service has asked the universities to present cost per program, whether it's a degree program, cost per program to them, and they are going to upload this to the portal. I think you guys are aware that your friends have not even picked courses yet. So you will clearly see there that doing dentistry in the University of Nairobi is 800,000. And then you've been told the government can only fund this amount. What has been happening in university is that you go there and you're told a program is 30K per term. And then by the end of the term, you have paid 120,000, which you can't explain because of so many hidden costs. And I'm really happy that the COOPS, now that is the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service, has said, let us know all the costs related to a particular program. All these monies, the 84 billion, it's supposed to fund, now you guys, I know you're talking about help, but when that money comes, you spend it. By the time you're supposed to pick an exam card, you have nothing to pay with your school fees. Now, today, you're going to receive that money. I think all we need is a sense of responsibility on the side of managers of universities, and then also on the side of the students. Now, I thought we should discuss that because you asked the question, you said you will get to that, but I saw we had moved to another topic. Two, you asked me about CBC.
We're going to delve into CBC much later, because actually you've started discussing this. Now we have to delve into this, but let us take a very quick short break, and then we'll be right back. We'll talk about that.
Welcome to Talking, a program where we share stories of people who are changing the world.
Where are the jobs? Where do I get the next money from?
And what it brings out is that it can be done. Most of us, or most of the entrepreneurs, one of the things that they have failed to know is to think that you're having a solution without really a well-defined problem.
When you go to college, you go there alone. You fill the application forms alone, and at the end of the day, you either graduate alone, you don't graduate as a group.
If there is a dream in you, go for it. Don't stop. When the opportunity comes your way, do it excellently.
Behind every successful person, there is a mindset that propels them to live that successful life. And at Talking, we want to bring those people closer to you so that you can be able to listen to their stories of perseverance, their stories of overcoming limitations and also challenges, with the keywords of happiness and also challenge.
Everywhere, GBS.
Let's talk about the university new funding shocker model, of course, introduced by President William Ruto. Just as you had said, before we get to talk about CBC, and let me just get to Agri, if you can tell us maybe your thoughts on the new funding model introduced by President William Ruto. Will it have maybe a positive impact to the student? And maybe from what he has mentioned, maybe, or what you have gotten, what are these positive things that you picked from these?
Yeah, I think the new funding system is a great win. It's a big win for the comrades or the students from extremely needy families, as now the government will be able to cater for their fees up to 53%, then 40% loans, then the parents will be looking for the 7%. So I think this is a very big win for most comrades. As we know, most comrades don't come from that well-off families. But as it will be a big win for the comrades, we should also look at the other sides. The government is saying that it will only apply to to students in the public universities, and saying that the ones in private universities won't be able to get funds, they'll only get loans. So I think the government is trying to discourage students from going to these private universities. And I think these are a very serious matter that we really need to look at. Yeah, because if you're saying that you'll only fund public, and there are also students, government-sponsored students in university like...
they don't get scholarships.
Yeah, now they won't get scholarships, but they'll only get loans. So I think it's kind of, they're being discouraged into applying for these universities. I find that some of them had dreams of going this university, and this is a way of maybe shutting down dreams of some students. And I think it's also a big win to the universities, since now they'll be able to receive more funds, as most students were not able to pay funds for themselves. So I think this is also a big win for the universities, and therefore I think it will also help in solving the issue of cash crunch in the universities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we are going to. I'm going to ask you, Masika. Maybe you're going to help us in the issue.
Yeah.
But before that, let me just come to Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly, this new funding system, do you think it's going to affect the quality of education that the students are now getting at the university? Maybe maybe it could save or help maybe in solving the issue of cash crunch at the university?
So the new funding model is good. So there are criteria which are used. There are categories. We have the needy, vulnerable, extremely needy, and the needy and less needy. So for the extremely vulnerable, the government will provide for them 53% of the scholarship, and the loans 40%, and the household now will be going for 7%. So I think that caters for the needy students, and that is a good move. On another issue, to the private universities, all private universities are competitive in Kenya. They are competent in providing their programs, but the government should look into that matters by providing them with the funds also.
Okay.
Because the model shows that they will not get the funds, only the loans for the students. And also the criteria that will be used to consider who is needy or who is the president said that the chiefs and the pastor will be very crucial in knowing who is needy or who is vulnerable.
But do you think that this categorization of the needy students, of the needs of students, do you think it actually represents accurately the true financial status of these students?
So the issue is for the system to be adopted, there must be some disadvantaged persons. But as we go on, I think the process will be well, and the criteria will be fine. Yeah.
Maybe Masika, you can also delve into that issue.
I think what has been happening when I was in college or university, I saw comrades from very rich families receiving help. And I never understood why they are being given help, yet they are even driving to school, they are eating like kings, but they are receiving help. So the tool that is being used to categorize people was developed at the Higher Education Loans Board. And that tool will consider so many factors before you are called a very needy person. There are factors and criteria that you have to meet. Now, they are going, like he has given examples that even very local leaders, comrade, I don't know whether you go to church, so your pastor will rate you badly. So, you see, the pastor will come in, the chief will come in, the Nyumba Kumi will come in.
Okay.
And then after that, remember, all your parents, anybody who has a national ID in this country has a KRA PIN.
Okay.
Anybody with any form of earning, and I think I'm liking this country because I think a lot of our issues are going to be centralized. So if you have a KRA PIN and you don't earn annually, please file 0 returns every year. If you have a KRA PIN and there are indications that you've been earning money, that will be captured when they are rating you as able, needy, vulnerable, or very needy. They will be using all that. Remember, comrades, if your parents have KRA pins, both your mom and dad, their salaries and their income will be factored in this. So, Eugene, even before we start negating this one, I think we should give it a chance to go through. Like he said, Odwald said, it's a win for the needy people in this country. And mark you, all this money is going to universities. So as long as the right information will come, unless you misinform the tool, you guys normally fill the form online. If you misinform the tool, and of which sometimes you have to be very crafty to keep misinforming it up to the end. Because sometimes you say, oh, my dad is passed on, and then you get to a point, you start keying in an ID of a person who is alive and still registered by the Central Registry of Persons. Then you see, you may even be disqualified. So with issues of honesty, with issues of straightforwardness, this tool is going to work. You guys, I don't know why you are defending private universities. If you are saying that, I think the government should also be capitating primary schools. It should be capitating also private secondary schools and academies. Now, This is, and the government just comes in to ensure that you get your right to education, but not to get it luxuriously. You are saying that there are these comrades that in the private university that are going to be disadvantaged. I'm not here to advocate for public universities or private, but I'm just saying this is a willing buyer and a willing seller. If you think you want, for example, the government is giving you 50K, why would you go for a program, the same program, for example, you want to do law at Strathmore, and somebody else is doing law at, I don't know whether Strathmore offers law, my learned friend, you can tell me, but for example, and somebody else is doing law at University of Nairobi. The person doing at University of Nairobi is considered a public student. Their fee, for example, is 200K. At Strathmore, you can do that. Actually, Strathmore and USIU are some of the universities that refused business with the government on this issue of funding. Find out. There are no students there that are paid for by the government because their fee is higher, such that the government is not cannot allow, cannot afford. That is what I mean. When I say it cannot afford, it's not like the government does not have money, but it has so many things to do for the country until it cannot just pay school fees or use all the money to pay school fees. So my advice to comrades who are aspiring to study in private university, I think sometimes it's good to be ambitious, but manage your ambitions. Manage your ambitions. Don't confuse an elephant for dinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
About this university funding shocker, introduced by the president, what do you think actually are these issues that should be looked into on this particular issue by the government while addressing this issue?
I think the idea of funding the universities by the president is a good idea, but now the challenge will come in the implementing the idea. How will the government know that this is a needy student? They've talked of using pastors and Mzee Nyumba Kumi and the chief area. But Mr. Kwach, if you go back to the village, even the local bursaries being issued by, I think the MC or the MPs, most students who benefit from these things are students who come from well-off families in the village.
And who have connections.
Who have connections. It's about connections. So I think implementing this idea will be a very tricky process, and the government should look into ways of implementing it, because it's very evident when you go back to the village, most people who have bursaries are those who are already well off, and it won't even be my surprise if you find out that those who will benefit from, those who will be claimed to be very needy will be will be children of our politicians. I won't be surprised to find out that, because but the only problem is that these are small things the law knows no cure for it, but I think we should look into it.
Okay. Jim Kelly. Yes.
So I think the system is good, so the implementation part is where we go wrong.
Okay. Maybe you tell us something that is very great in this university funding shocker that you find is so helpful actually to the students, not only the students, but even to the community.
So to the university, the crisis of cash and finance will be done away with, and to the community, so many people will now study. We have so many comrades who are home due to lack of funds to go to the desired universities. So when the president initiates this, many will go to the universities, and we'll have professionals.
Okay, but there's also an issue that the critics who argue that the new funding model actually will place some responsibility, additional financial burden on households generally. Now, how can the government strike a balance between supporting actually these students and of course also affordability, because there are those people who will pay more in this university new funding model. There are those people who will actually pay more. There are those people who may actually seem that they're coming from a very well-off family, but in real sense may not actually be coming from a very well-off family. How do they go about this to ensure that actually they don't put burden on households?
My thinking is, first of all, I want to settle your fears on the, but I don't know, this is Kenya, you know, but the need assessment tool should be made tamper-proof. And I think we should have oversight organizations and bodies and even human rights people checking to ensure that actually the needy people are the people receiving scholarship. Eugene, I'm aware in this country, scholarships normally come, even international scholarships. The people who are deserving do not get those scholarships, but the children of the who's and who's are the ones that get those scholarships and go for them, whereas they were meant for a poor person. So that is your concern, and I think what we need to address, even as we move forward, are issues of corruption and ensuring that some of these systems are accountable and somebody is there to just check that so and so was actually awarded scholarship and that person is deserving. On your case, on where saying that some households are going to receive extra burden, when I was listening to the president as he was doing his presentation, as they launched or as we was discussing about this funding model, I think he said that this fund is like an equalization fund, so that just like a rich kid will go to university and get education, also a poor person should go to university and get education. And if you look at the percentages, the way they are varying from the rich to the poor when it comes to scholarship, I think it's 53, 38, like that. And then somebody else is supposed to take a higher loan and another. It cannot be 100% efficient in balancing our living, but it's actually assisting. Now, I don't know, but me, even I went to school through HELP. But still, my parents were supposed to get me some money, especially for issues of upkeep, food, and stuff like that. So, what is happening, if somebody gets a scholarship of 53%, let's say, for example, you're paying 100K for Bachelor of Arts in Education at KU. If you're supposed to pay 100K and 53%, I've used 100 so that we just cut this 100 down as we talk about percentage, 53,000 will be paid for you, isn't it? Yes. 47%, which is 47K, you will do what? You will apply for help. It's allowed. That is allowed. And then 7% is what? 7,000. That is the only money that your family is supposed to raise.
Okay.
I am sure we can struggle along until we get there. And even those other people in those other categories have been told, now, the only thing that you will do, you will take an extra loan compared to a very needy person. You will take 55% of loan.
Okay.
So from the 100K, you will be, as somebody will be taking 40K, you will be taking what? Is it 47 or 40? 40. You will be taking what? 55,000 as loan. And this is money that is payable later on after you're done with your university. So I am trying to understand how somebody will be burdened, but I think if there are families that cannot, households that cannot raise the 7%, the government has also other agencies that give bursaries. We have organizations, the NGOs, we have the NGCDF that needy families are still receiving funds from. So I'm sure, Eugene, we'll get somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, people still receive education via NGCDF. It can still fast, which they give to very needy people. Unfortunately, my friend thinks that the children of the rich are the ones that receive. I think the MPs should listen to this and ensure that the right people get that money.
Okay.
Yes.
We're taking a very quick short break, but of course we'll be coming right back onto this issue, talking about the CBC system and also other issues as well.
everywhere. GBS.
Welcome back to The Insight. Today, Bawanda before is our SMS line at GBS TV Africa is where you get to get us as we get to have this conversation on the state of education. And agree as we end this conversation on the university funding shocker. Actually, this university funding puts more emphasis on loans rather than scholarships. Do you see any potential challenges on this issue particularly?
Yeah, I see a challenge in this issue because the government is putting, as you've said, the government is putting emphasis on loans. And I see now it's like the government is in business because these loans, you have to repay them back with interest. So I think that it's like the government is in a form of business. It's like a very organized, if not crime, then a business. So I think the government should stop emphasizing on loans and see on how to give student scholarships.
Okay.
Yeah, because the problem with these loans is that after you are done with your university education, you are being given like 2 years to start paying the loans. After 2 years in our country, you still don't have a job. There is a graduate maybe who has gone to start fishing. They don't have jobs, and the government requires them to pay back the money. So I think the government should stop emphasizing on giving the loans. But if the government must give the loans, then should look at the interest. Yeah, let it even be zero interest, interest-free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last statement from you.
So, on my part, the government has done well, considering the SDG4, quality education. Quality education is one of the very essential things that one needs to have. So, what we need to do is now to be accountable and also to do a follow-up.
Okay.
So that we are accountable of what the funds, where they are going to be used and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let us shift this conversation to the curriculum-based system. Yeah, there is CBC. A discussion, and actually critics say that the CBC system has actually been burdensome to many stakeholders, including the teachers, because lack of training for the CBC system. What do you make of the CBC system? Was it rushed? What are the challenges around the CBC system? If I can start with you, Masika.
Now, but first of all, I'll for clarity, for the sake of our viewers, once the government gives money to Higher Education Loans Board, and that money is lent to the learners, once you pay it back, HELB uses it to pay for another learner. So even if it's business, it's good business. Yes, the government does not take back that money. It's lent to us at 4%. Once you repay, another needy learner takes the money, and then they also repay, and it's a revolving fund.
Okay.
So it doesn't go back to the treasury. So it's not a business for the government. Now, CBC is a good thing, very good thing. Even the people who came up with it, they were looking at how better can education be for our children and our learners, because it was looking at, you know, for some time people have not even loved this country. Citizenship, digital literacy, learning to learn, self-efficacy, communication and collaboration, critical thinking, among other things. Those are things that are welcome. We'd like people's talents and abilities to be provoked when they are still tender. Unfortunately, I think the people who oversighted the implementation of CBC wanted quick wins. And just like a child, it's gradual for the growth. So CBC has, I think up to grade 6, I've seen a lot of successes. But from grade, now the junior secondary, that is where things started going haywire. Why? Today, and I saw even the Anglican Church was complaining about it, because Anglican Church is a sponsor of schools, but they do not have a tooled CBC trainer or of their own in the church, so they rely on the government for deployment. So what is happening in the junior secondary, we have a junior secondary that has only 2 teachers with like 14 lessons to be covered in each of the streams, and they have 2 streams. So that is quality compromised even before we start saying anything. And there are places, you guys understand the number of teachers, CBC teachers that were posted recently. They are not sufficient. Sometimes when I sleep, I ask myself, what about those schools that did not receive the junior secondary teachers? How are they moving forward? Yeah. So I think this will go back to implementation.
Okay.
And you know now learning is categorized according to years.
Okay.
I will not delay to go to junior secondary because someone is not ready. They have to quickly rush themselves and be ready for me when I'm going to the next.
Okay.
I think the senior secondary is going to give us a lot of stress because again we are not planning for it.
Agree. Your overview generally on the CBC system.
Yeah, my view, according to my view, I think 844 system of education was the best system. The only problem with 844 is that it was more theoretical, in a manner that even the practicals, we used to do them theoretically. Even the biology, you only learn of bonds theoretically instead of touching them practically. So I think instead of interfering with the 844 system, let us implement CBC within the 844 system. And I think this will be better, and it will even save a lot of funds according to reshuffling of the whole system. I think we can just bring the curriculum-based system into the 844 system and implement it within the system. I think it will be much better, and it will save the country from so much unnecessary spendings. Yeah.
You think actually maybe the CBC system has affected, or generally how has it affected maybe the way the professors or the lecturers in the university are teaching or dispensing knowledge? Yes.
Yeah, I think up to now we haven't. There is no student from the 844 from the CBC that has reached university. So up to now maybe.
But there's too much theory in the university.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, people say things and they don't.
There is too much theory, and this is what I'm saying. Let us implement the CBC within the 844, so that even the, you know, I'm a BCom student, and it's so much surprising that even when we learn of things like accounting, we do them theoretically. So instead of doing theoretically, let us implement them practically within the 844 system.
I think the universities which have adopted CBC system in the ways of teaching things, I think KC University is one of them. Maybe you can tell us if you are experiencing this in your university, and generally you tell us about the CBC overview and how you think it has affected even the way professors teach at the university.
I want to recall on what my learned friend Agri said. We should integrate CBC within 844. Integrating it means we take the practical parts and integrate into the theoretical part where 844 was. In 844, there's a lot of theory. The teachers come there, they cram, they dispense, they cram, they dispense. So in a CBC world, we do things, we do practical things. So this practical things makes you be much familiar with what you are going to do in the outside. Yeah. So we need to integrate. Yeah.
But you know, we have moved forward. We will not get there again, because right now we have young people who have already done grade 6. So we will never have standard 1.
Okay, but
so we are moving forward. I think
he has talked about integrating CBC within the 844 system. How will
you know, when
help?
you say CBC and 844, CBC I think is 3. It's 6. 3, 6.
3, 6.
3. You know, like that. So when we're talking about the model, the models, one model is already phased out. Okay. So the other model is taking effect. Yeah, so when we say, for example, you know, CBC, just that it was called competence-based learning, but it has its connotation, how it is supposed to flow. Okay. And then 844 is the one we know very well. CBC is 3, I think 6 something. Yeah. because you do 3 years elementary up to grade 3, there's an exam. You do another exam at grade 6, like that, and then you go to junior secondary another 3 years, like that. Now, we are not going to go back there. The only thing that we need to be discussing is going forward, what should be done to make CBC successful. Today, if they called off CBC, millions of children will be affected. So we can only discuss it going forward.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do you think, actually, because you're talking about that, what do you think are these necessary assistance that actually the government should provide to these institutions that are...
Proactiveness. That is what is lacking. Like right now, Eugene, I've told you, we have the junior secondary that has a problem with teachers. But remember, these junior secondary people, 3 years is not a lot of time. These guys are going to leave the junior secondary for senior school very soon. But how are we preparing for senior school? Nothing. In fact, we should be having colleges that are retooling trainers now for senior school. But we have a gap for junior secondary already.
Agree.
Yeah, I think my line different is not getting that point. The unique thing about CBC is the competency. You do things practically, and that is what is lacking in the 844 system. So I think the only way that we can solve this is take the practical part and put it in the 844, so that instead of a kid being taught that you should do some journal entries, they should now do it. They should be taken to banks. Hey, try doing this, and once you are done with this, you'll be able to do it in the outside world practically. Yeah. So instead of wasting funds implementing another system, I don't know, 3, 6. Let us implement the practical part in the 844 system.
Which I said, we have passed there already. The government is not going to go back. Billions have been spent.
Okay. So...
Even as you give your parting shot now,
because
there's sort of time.
You know, the CBC want teachers who are very competent, who are very trained, who have knowledge of what they are going to do.
Correct.
So this requires funds. At the state of the nation at right now, the government has no money. We are struggling economically, and also, in other words, we are down.
Yeah.
So the government need to put effective way of how to deal with the CBC. And also, because we are in it, we cannot go back. It was initiated, and now it is a program that is running. And for it to run effectively, those things need to be taken into consideration, the training of teachers, adequate funds, determining the uniforms which the kids are going to wear. That was also a challenge. Yeah.
In a minute, please.
Junior secondary school.
Okay, in a minute, please give your closing remarks.
I think I'm impressed with what the Kenya Kwanza government is doing. I think there's a lot of goodwill in matters education, and I think we just need to be positive, watch and see how things unfold. There's a lot of increased, now this is increased funding. I think 54 to 84, that's 30 more billion for people to learn. That is in touch, technical, that's TVETs and universities. There's more funding. Young people just speak, like we are saying, programs that are technical based, and you're coming to bring solutions locally. And as for CBC, I wish TSC would listen to my plea, prepare teachers in advance. Like he's saying, we need competent people for competent programs. Yes.
Agree. Your closing remarks, even as we end the show.
Yeah, just as my learned friend has said, I'm also impressed by the president and the steps he's taking towards ensuring that we have better education quality. The quality of education is better in the country. But the government, the president should ensure that this money goes to the needy students. Yeah, the needy. We don't want some imaginary needy students in the universities being funded, yet the real needy ones are back at home suffering. So yeah, and if in case the president is watching this, then let him listen to this piece of advice. Let him implement the CBC within the 844. It doesn't matter whether we are going back or not. It's a matter of doing the right thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, for this conversation that we have had. It was these three gentlemen, two student leaders, one from Egerton University, another from University of Nairobi, and of course Samuel Masika was also here with us as we got to discuss and delve into the state of education, looking into the new university shocking university new model of finding. And of course they delved deeply into it, giving views and perspectives on this very issue. Of course, as they also gave perspective on the CBC system and also the cash crunch that is facing the universities. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much, our viewers back at home. On behalf of everyone who has made this a success, I want to wish you a very good night. My name is Eugene Ochieng-Kwach, and this is The Insight that comes to you every Friday from 7 p.m. See you next Friday.